Hey everyone, welcome back to this post-reading discussion section. Today we'll be focusing on cantos 3 and 4 of the Inferno. Again, as you can see, it's an informal setting. I'm going to be talking my way through some of what I think are the most important moments in these two cantos. I hope you'll take the time to follow up with some questions that this discussion has prompted, and maybe drill down with a little more focus on the moments that we discuss. So I really want to talk about, again, three major moments in these two cantos. The first is the encounter with Charon, the boatman. The second is the first instance of contrapasso that we encounter in the poem with the souls known as the neutrals. And the third, in Canto 4, is Dante's self-inclusion in limbo among the souls of the great poets of Greek and Roman antiquity. So those are the 3 points of dramatic import that I really want to dwell and spend time on. But we'll begin by returning to, as we discussed in the introductory lecture, the gate of hell, which is the first thing we encounter here. Through me the way into the suffering city. Through me the way into the eternal pain. Justice urged my high artificer, my maker was divine authority, the highest wisdom and the primal love. Abandon every hope, all you who enter here. I cut out a few lines there, but the point that we really want to drill down on here is that it's love that has created this place. That's a significant statement. But particular, the statement that Dante the Pilgrim makes afterwards when he says, Master, their meaning is difficult for me. The Italian there is duro, which means hard. It's difficult to comprehend. It's also maybe harsh. It's a difficult, harsh thing to comprehend, eternal punishment. That statement conveys to us that part of what Dante is going to have to learn is how love, justice, eternal wisdom can coexist with things like eternal damnation. The very first of the shades whom we meet in the afterlife, remember that's Dante's word for the souls of those who have died, ombre or shades, we meet them very briefly. They are the neutrals. They are those who didn't stand for anything during their life. And they are conjoined with the neutral angels. Those are the angels who didn't take a side during the great war in heaven. And all of these, in some ways, Dante simply skips past. He wants to know. He hears their shrieks and their crying, and he sees them. He wants to know about them. Virgil says, we'll skip past them. They stand for nothing. But it is the first instance of contrapasso in the poem, that is the counterweight or the counteraction, the counter-suffering that Dante's divine justice inflicts upon sinners, in some way reflecting the sins of their life. This one is a fairly one-to-one correspondence. It's a good pedagogical moment for us because it teaches us how the model is going to work. These are souls who during their life, people who during their life didn't take a side. Now they are forced to follow a banner, a waving flag or a banner. That is, they are now forced to take a side, and with such fury that they are chased around and stung by insects. At line 67, insects streaked their faces with blood, which mingled with tears fell at their feet. So there's a horrible kind of punishment here that inverts their neutrality and their passivity in life and forces them now into a state of determination and frenzy. So Dante and Virgil, as they do with every set of sinners whom they'll meet, pass on, and this is when they encounter the mythical underworld boatman Charon. Charon is going to ferry them across the river Acheron. It's the first of multiple rivers that we will encounter in the underworld, in hell. But the drama of this moment is not that they need to pay him, or that they need to, or his appearance, which is really cool as well. He's got eyes that are like burning embers. But the drama of this moment for Dante is Charon's resistance and Virgil's authority, right? So here is a moment that Virgil pulls what I like to call his God card. In a way, he reaches into his pocket, pulls out his authorization that says, back off, buddy. Charon says, before this get back. You've got to take another way. Virgil says, Charon, don't torment yourself. Our passage has been willed above, where one can do what one has willed, and ask no more. And at that moment, at that single moment, Charon falls silent. And we'll see this a number of times throughout these early cantos. Virgil pulls the God card. He pulls out this authorization from above. It is willed where one can do as one wills. That is, where will and power are one. That is the way of referring to God in Inferno, one way of referring to God. And with that single statement, obstacles fall away as if they were nothing. So the drama of that moment, I think, is really Virgil showing Dante, but really showing the readers that he has a certain power here, but it is a power on loan to him by God, by way of Beatrice. At the end of this canto, Dante has the first of several fainting spells. A whirlwind burst out of the tear-drenched earth. A wind crackled with a blood-red light, and like a man whom sleep has seized, I fell. This is a wonderful moment of transition that Dante makes several times between cantos, because when he awakens in Canto 4, he's going to be in a different place. He's going to be in Canto 4 in a place called Limbo. Limbo in Dante's hell is the place that is reserved for people who were worthy but lived before Christianity or were without baptism. So, as we're going to discover in this canto, Virgil himself, Dante's guide, is an inhabitant of Limbo. And he is there with a number of other, what we call, in this context, virtuous pagans. And the place itself of Limbo is beautiful. It is simply a darkened, calm, peaceful forest, right? The only punishment that these souls suffer is that they sigh, and their sighs reflect the life without hope. So because they lived before Christ, according to Dante, they didn't know the hope of Christ, and so in death, they perpetually live, therefore, without that hope. Virgil says at line 40, for these defects and for no other evil, we are lost and punished just with this. We have no hope, and yet we live in longing. So it is a moment of sadness and of sorrow, and Dante immediately feels it and asks Virgil, wait, hasn't anyone ever gotten out of this place? Virgil responds to him briefly with something that we will encounter much more. That is, in essence, a summary of when Christ, according to medieval theology, descended into hell and freed a number of the great patriarchs and returned with them to heaven. So that is Virgil's answer, but the real drama here is the beginning of Dante's feeling, the pilgrim's feeling, and the poet's, likewise, revelation of that feeling that there's an injustice here, that these people aren't here because of any reason other than their historical accident of their birth. The last great moment that this canto really moves toward is Dante's self-inclusion in the circle of poets whom he meets. So as Virgil returns, he's greeted by Homer and by others, Ovid, Lucan, all great poets of classical antiquity. They greet him and they begin to speak, and Dante is following behind them. And as he walks along, he says, soon after they had talked a while together, they turned to me, saluting cordially, and having witnessed this, my master smiled. An even greater honor then was mine, for they invited me to join their ranks. I was sixth among such intellects. This is quite a moment, right? This is a moment that you could say, wow, that's really great for Dante. This is a moment of great awe and authorization that they look upon him this way, right? But remember that this is Dante the poet writing himself into the class of the greatest poets of all history. There's a great irony here, because this is Dante the poet who hasn't yet written the Commedia, right? Remember, as he wrote it in order, as best we can tell. As he's writing this, he has not yet written the great epic poem that will be the reason for his reputation, for his global renown. And yet at this moment, in some ways, he places his bets. He says, the poem that I am writing, this poem, when it's complete, will place me among these names. And he was right. He was right. So it's an incredibly bold moment. There's a lot of dramatic undertow to it. And there's some irony involved. Irony, is simply the saying one thing but meaning another. In some ways, Dante says, I am famous enough already to be included among these folks. What he means is, I am not famous enough, but I will soon be famous enough. With that, the company slims down to just Virgil and Dante again, and they leave this beautiful place. The last thing that I will say about this beautiful limbo, which is in fact portrayed as a kind of place set apart. It's not nearly as awful as some of the other realms of hell. It's not a river of burning tar or a river of blood. It is set aside in a way that reflects the ancient vision of the underworld. So the ancient visions of the underworld in Virgil included Elysium, and in some ways it's another irony that Dante includes that as part of his Inferno. That is, this is the place to which they longed. They didn't know about heaven. They didn't know about a greater good in the afterlife. And so in some ways their contrapasso, first of all, is not to be able to hope, but second of all, is to be fulfilled in their desire to abide forever in the Elysian fields, in this place that they regarded as the greatest. And that, of course, in Dante's world, is in hell. If you're sensing some conflict here, if you're wondering whether this is just and why folks who are not baptized or great figures from the past who are virtuous are nonetheless condemned to remain in hell forever, you're not alone, and it will not be the last time you think about that. Dante will make it a point to bring it up again.